What is up, and welcome back to the channel, Living in Denver with your Colorado real estate family. Alright, so today's going to be an interesting video. So we've done pros and cons about Denver, Colorado in itself. I'm going to expand those boundaries a little bit, and we're going to hit pros and cons of the Denver metro area. Let's go. Alright, welcome back. If this is your first time watching, you got Pete Sweeney here, riding solo. Typically I got my wife Chelsea, but today you just got me. So let's go ahead and try this out. Do yourself a quick favor, hit that subscribe button and a little notification bell, because we like to do on this channel is cover Denver, all of its surrounding cities. Be your boots on the ground experts, bringing you all you need to know about moving into Colorado. We're talking about cost of living, we're talking about housing prices, we're talking about activities, all those things that you really want to know before moving into the state. Also, licensed real estate agent here, helping you out with all your real estate purchases. I love helping you out. We're getting those phone calls on a constant basis. We're going to throw the phone number in right below, right there. So go ahead and give us a shout if you're looking at moving into Colorado. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about Denver metro area. So we've done a pros and cons in regards to Denver. This is going to be the Denver metro area. So what do I mean by that? It means the city of Denver, and also a few of these outlying surrounding cities, what we technically consider the Denver metro area, which is a much larger area as compared to the city of Denver. So a little bit of a lengthy explanation, but I really want to dive into that so that you're not just expecting everything for the city of Denver. So pros and cons, let's go in and dive into those right now. All right, so the first pro that we're really going to hit on, and what I really like to hit on because it is the Denver metro area, it's not necessarily that city setting that Denver would be, is you have different flavors for different people. Listen, I know maybe if you have a family, you might not want to be incorporated into that Denver area where you are having to stay in like a condo or have to deal with that congestion. Say you want to be more in the suburbs, and so you can really experience that, you know, when you're looking more at like Lakewood, Littleton, Arvada, that's further west, even Aurora, you could have that suburbia setting. Or say if you're a young professional, the downtown area might be more for you, you know? So where you do have Rhino, you have Highlands, and you have all these areas that have a lifestyle that's geared more towards that kind of that single lifestyle or that young professional lifestyle. And so something to really look at with the Denver metro area, it's been growing like crazy these last probably like 10 years, just because Denver has become so popular in Colorado as a state. The Denver metro area is expanding like crazy, and with that, you have so many different cities that you can choose from, and that's why we really like to cover all these different cities in all of our videos. That way you kind of know, hey, you know what, maybe this is what I'm looking for. This city might be for you, or this city might be for you, or this setting might be for you. We really like to dive in and give you as much of an idea as possible so you can make that decision when moving into Colorado. Alright, so let's go and dive into our first con. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to dive back and forth between, you know, our pros and cons. So we got, you know, pro, con. That way it's not just like all positive and then all negative at the end, or vice versa. So let's go and dive into our first con, which will be our elevation and altitude. And I know we've hit on this so many times in all of our past videos, but it keeps on popping up. Listen, we are constantly sitting down with you guys when you're coming into the state, whether to check out some certain cities or just kind of get an eye on what areas you really like. There's a few times where you have mentioned that there's this altitude sickness that happens being at the elevation that we're at. So you might have it for like the first 24 hours, you just don't feel right, you know, you kind of feel lightheaded maybe a little bit. And so it's something to kind of really take into consideration when you're moving into Colorado. That's a huge con. If you're not used to this, if you're coming from somewhere like sea level, that elevation and that altitude might affect you quite a bit. The good thing though, I guess the silver lining to that is the fact that it does go away eventually. But coming into Colorado initially, you might get that elevation sickness, which might be a huge con for you. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into another pro. And actually, I'm gonna kind of bring this into a different perspective. So pro, public transit system. And I think the biggest pro towards this is not the fact that we have it, but that we're constantly growing it. Listen, like 10 years ago when we didn't have that commuter rail system, the light rail that's expansive as it is now, it was horrible getting into downtown. You know, you had the RTD buses and such, but it seemed like it took forever to get into downtown. Well, now that you have that commuter rail system that's all on the outlying areas of the Denver metro area, it's so much easier, and they got it down to an art where it's like certain times during the day, they're like, you know, okay, this station right here will have, let's say the 22-minute of every hour and the 45-minute of every hour. So they have it set up on all these commuter rail systems so that you're like, okay, I'm going to take the light rail down, say for work, for events, or whatever it might be. You kind of have that in mind. I have been told, because we have talked with a few of you who are actually from Europe, saying how the United States isn't that great when it comes to public transit, but we're getting better. And Denver and the Denver metro area in general is really focused on making sure that our public transit system is becoming better and better, and eventually going to be a great system so that you do have that connection into downtown Denver from these outlying cities. So definitely a huge pro, something to kind of really think about if you want to, or let's say you have to work inside of Denver, but you don't necessarily want to live in Denver. Look for those light rail stations on these outside cities in the Denver metro area. That might be a good option so that you can kind of commute down to Denver and not have to worry about driving. All right, so the second con that I'm really going to dive into in regards to Colorado or the Denver metro area is wildfires. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the Marshall Fire was super rare. We typically don't get a fire like that are within the city limits of the Denver metro area, and that was even on the outskirts. I was closer over to Boulder. We don't typically get that in the city limits, but with wildfires, expect in the summertime that it's going to be a little bit smoky, and so that sucks. When, say, about a month out of the summer, you have this smoke that's covering the air. It looks like we're super polluted, but really it's just there's a wildfire either in our mountains or even sometimes in California's wildfires. It'll come over here into Colorado, and so that it makes the air quality super bad. It sucks. You smell it. Sometimes you get some ash. So it's just definitely a huge con on top of the forest destruction that those wildfires are creating. It just really hurts our air quality in regards to the Denver metro area during the summer times. And so like I said, it's just something you just got to kind of expect. It's like, oh great, there's some wildfires. It's going to probably be a little bit smoky, going to kind of have some ash floating in the air. Something to expect in the Denver metro area in regards to a con of living in the area. All right, so now let's dive into another pro of living in the Denver metro area. And this one is going to be kind of controversial because if you're coming from a state that doesn't have a state income tax, obviously it's going to be a con on your end. But if you are coming from a state that does have that state income tax, Colorado has a state or a flat state income tax of 4.55%. So that's something to kind of look out for. I know that in a lot of other states, those state income taxes are a lot higher than the state of Colorado. So this might be a huge pro for you, knowing that your state income tax is going to be a lot lower, and the fact that it's not progressive. It's a flat tax, and so you don't have to worry about that, increasing depending on how much money you're making or what your income is for that year. Something to kind of really think about. It could be a pro, but I guess at the same time, it could also be a con. Really wanted to kind of hit on that. That way you know what to expect when it comes to those state income taxes moving into the Denver metro area. All right, so now we're going to hit on our third con, which is going to be road construction. Denver metro area, just as I mentioned before, is growing exponentially. With that, you have a lot of new development, you have a lot of new infrastructure going in, and road construction, because you have all these outlying areas who are building up like crazy, all these outlying cities of the Denver metro area. With that, your roads need to be able to take in that volume of people moving into those areas, right? You can't have a 2-lane road going up to these huge, massive neighborhoods that are being built on the outskirts of the Denver metro area. So you're experiencing road construction almost everywhere in the state of Colorado right now. It doesn't matter where you're going, whether you're going as far north as Thornton or Lafayette, or as far south as, like, say, Parker. You're going to experience that road construction. It does suck right now having to drive into that, especially if you're commuting from the outskirts of the Denver metro area into the city of Denver. You're experiencing that road construction. It's going to give you delays when trying to get to work in the mornings, and so it's something to kind of really expect. With the Denver metro area growing as much as it is, just expect that road construction. Hopefully it'll come soon, but it seems like every time they're like doing road construction on I-25, they finish it just to start it right over again and expand it even more lanes. So something to kind of really expect and look forward to, or I guess not look forward to, but a con of moving into the Denver metro area. All right, so this pro, I'm going to make a little bit of fun. A pro about the Denver metro area. We just got Russell Wilson. And so if you are familiar with Colorado or the Denver metro area, we are huge on our Broncos. The Broncos is always number one. Yes, we do have those other sport teams. You have the Rockies, the Nuggets, the Avalanche. But the Broncos, this is Mile High country, right? This is where we're at, Broncos country. And so the fact that Russell Wilson is coming to Denver, that's a huge deal. We haven't really had a winning team since Peyton Manning decided to retire. So that's a huge pro about the Denver metro area right now is, guess what? Football's back, baby. And we're going to be doing something good, hopefully, this next season. We're also waiting for a new owner to purchase the team because we've been pretty much ownerless since Pat Bowlen died. So just kind of see what's coming down the line. But I think it's going to be a huge pro, hopefully, coming up here soon. All right, cool, guys. I mean, I made this quick, easy, and to the point. It's just, I mean, there's pros and cons. I highly recommend checking out all of other videos because we're constantly covering all the information that you need to know in regards to house prices, activities and such in the Denver metro area. It is growing like crazy, and there's so many cities that we do love that I think that might be fitting to you no matter what it is your lifestyle is like. And so I highly recommend going and checking out all of our other videos on this channel. And until next time, we love ya. Bye.